Good morning. Welcome to CSLDallas Science Mind class. I'm Dr. Petra, and we're so delighted to be here today. And we have new art. Oh my God. Catherine Baronet. She does this beautifully spiritual visionary art, and the colors are amazing. So she's going to be hanging in this beautiful room for a month. She will be here for those of you who are coming to the celebration. She will be here for the celebration today, and you can meet her afterwards. But man, do I love the colors. They're just amazing. So thanks to Linda Matthews for always making sure we have extraordinary art, because we remember that we are creative. Not just, it doesn't mean that we have to be artistic, but we co-create. And so we have to stop saying we're not creative. It's not true. We're creating all the time. And we have art and opportunities for artistic expressions to remind us that yes, in fact, we are creative. Okay, so we are finishing up this section on soul, and if you're following along with the teaching symbol, right, we're focusing on the middle section of the teaching symbol, not like it's really located in the middle, right? We're clear. It's just a graphic representation to help us kind of remember that the infinite reality that we're a part of has three aspects to it. We're exploring each of the aspects, not like you could take it out and put it over here and say that's what this is. Or even, I always think it's really interesting that they're all the same, basically the same size, as if size, like there was a size in the infinite. So we're talking about that middle section in our teaching symbol, and if you are interested in exploring it some more, you can always go to the back of the Science of Mind, and there are some lovely graphs in there by Ernest Holmes that help us think about how these various aspects of the one are related to each other. We had the ever so exciting conversation last week about inductive and deductive reasoning. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, what are you talking about? And of course, we talk about the idea that the infinite, the universe, this aspect of the co-creative process can't actually do anything but take the impress of what it's given. So it deduces from the various combinations of input that it has, it deduces what that outcome is, and it knows how to make that outcome. But it can't inquire into the validity of what's being given to it. So this is right in the middle of page 196. There can be no inductive reasoning in the soul of the universe because it is the creative medium. And if it could reason inductively, it could reject certain thoughts because it could analyze. But soul or subjectivity can never reject. It is bound by its own nature to accept. And so it has no mind of its own other than the ability to know how to make something from the impress. And this is why Ernest Holmes talks about this being the feminine aspect of the one, because it's the receptive aspect. It is that which receives the impress and then births it into physicality. And so the best way to really think about this aspect of subjectivity is the law of cause and effect. It was page 96, not 196. What, 96? 96. We're on page 96. Thank you, Jerry. 96 and 97. So why is this important? Well, we're going to look at this next little paragraph, and I think it will illuminate a little bit about why this is important. So, right in the middle of the next paragraph, 96, of the last paragraph on that page. So the soul is without consciousness, but is conscious in relationship to the impressions it has received. whether they be truth or only belief. And with mathematical certainty and precision, backed by the law of its own being, it proceeds to execute the ideas given to it. Thus, it is plainly seen that the soul can only reason deductively. I don't know whether the use of the word reasoning helps this conversation. And I'm not sure that it really makes a difference whether the soul reasons or not. But what the point here is to try to find something that helps us with an analogy or a way of understanding that the law, this aspect of the creative process, cannot inquire into the validity of the impress that is receiving. It can't inquire into the validity of any set of beliefs, any set of whether they're beliefs that humanity has about being separate and life is hard and we got kicked out of the garden and all that stuff, or whether it's a family belief system, or whether it's an individual set of beliefs. It can only receive the impress. So it's conscious, but it's consciousness, meaning that it has the intelligence to then execute the information it's been given, but it's not self-conscious like we are to ask, wait, are you sure? Is that really what you want? So it's without conscious consciousness, but is conscious in the fact that it can take this impress and with mathematical certainty and precision, backed by the law of its own being, proceed to execute the ideas given to it. Okay, so this is super critical because this allows us to recognize that we are not working with a capricious entity. We're not working with a God that has to be pleased, appeased, begged. We're not working with a God that needs a certain kind of performance, whether it's wearing something on your head or kneeling in a certain way or any of those kinds of things, right? The law of mathematics requires nothing other than you understand what the plus sign means and the minus sign means and the equal sign means and the little division sign means and as you get into algebra and calculus, all those signs, it only requires that you understand what the signs mean. But the law of mathematics is only going to do whatever the equation is that it's been given. So here comes I think the most important part of this. This is on the top of page 97. The subconscious or subjective is never an entity, although it acts as though it were. And this is where I find that we fall into what I call sloppy metaphysics. Sloppy metaphysics, or a little bit of shorthand. Well, Spirit will make it happen. Spirit will work it out. No. Spirit does not work it out. The law works it out. It is the law. Do you see, if we associate it with spirit, and which is the impulse, the impress, there is the possibility of a different impress being put in there. And spirit might say, well, you shouldn't have that. Nonsense. The law does not say that. This is why we only do our spiritual mind treatment and our work for people who have asked for it. If we have babies or people in comas or we drive by an accident, of course, we can absolutely know highest and best good and that everything that is needed there is there. But in terms of specific outcomes, we don't do that for other people unless they have specifically asked, this is the outcome. Why? Because the law only says yes. And we are particularly prone to doing this with our children, are we not? Our children, our partners. If only they would get that job, if only we could move that place, if only it would be like this, right? And we start treating for that person to have that thing, not realizing that they actually don't want that thing, whatever that thing is. And so we ascribe, we conflate what is the aspect of the one that is spirit and what is the aspect of the one that is the law, soul. And we become sloppy. And when you find yourself saying things like, well, the universe didn't want me to have it, or spirit had another plan, what you're doing is ascribing beingness to a law that doesn't have beingness. It can only respond. And it can only say yes. This is really challenging sometimes to recognize that what the universe wants for us is to express fully, completely, be all that we can be, give the greatest gift that we can give, experience and express life to its fullest. That's why it's individualized as each one of us, so that it can further the expression of life itself. But the particularities about that, it loves us so much that it just wants us to do whatever makes us, is in alignment with our nature, talent, interest, life, all of those sorts of things that really allow us to express and experience life and contribute. But the universe, spirit, has really no opinion. Whether you buy that house or are an accountant or get in that relationship or follow that particular path. And the law can only say yes. So we put that impress in, we move down the road, the law starts to outpicture it, and then we go, oh wait, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. That is not the universe telling us we shouldn't have it. That is our own innate intelligence going, well, I thought that was going to be the thing. I thought that was going to be the right, that was going to be the path, or that was going to be the way my life would express. That's not, no, something, let's, and so we choose and we choose and we choose again and again and again. And there's no limit. That would be like saying the plus sign in a mathematical equation said, no, you've used me 10 times today, that's it. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? Isn't it a ridiculous thought? Gravity says, I've been holding you on the earth your whole life. I'm just not going to do it today, I'm tired. Or, well, you didn't meditate this morning, so I'm not going to hold you to the ground today. Do you see? But we're a little sloppy when we say, well, spirit had this in mind. No, the universe, the law is reflecting back to us the whole set of beliefs that have been put into play, that are beginning to outpicture, and we have been left alone to discover that everything we need has been given. It is all about our choices and our use of the law. And so it's not an entity of itself. It is very necessary to understand this, because one of the first things the practitioner has to do is to separate the belief from the believer. From the standpoint of the spiritual human being, disease, poverty, unhappiness, and misery are neither person, place, nor thing, and therefore are subject to the law. They're utterly subject to the law. And so when we say, be gone, the law says, okay. And it busily works to execute, I love this, proceeds to execute the ideas given it. So what we want to do is make sure that we're not robbing ourselves of the experience of oneness and belonging. That is the impress of life, of spirit as us. We have been given everything, including the ability to consciously understand that we are co-creating. I mean, that's an amazing thing. Think about it. Think about it as we developed as children, and all of a sudden our parents started to let us make some decisions. Then we became young adults and we went out in the world and we like, wow. And then it was a little overwhelming at first and we made some crappy decisions. Ooh, man, 20s, man, ooh, man. But the 20s are all about learning. Like, oh, no, not such a good idea. And because life is just reflecting it back to us, reflecting it. And our choices begin to become educated. And the same thing happens as we understand what's going on at a larger spiritual level. All right, so we're going to stop there. And we're going to see what comments, questions, sharing there is in the room and out there online. So we'll say good morning to Ryan and Richard.
Well, good morning to you too, Dr. Petra, and thank you for everybody who's joining us in the room and online all over the globe. We want to say thank you for being in community with us today. And this is an engaging conversation, so we just ask that for the folks here in the room, just go ahead and raise your hands, and the ones I'm waving to right now are on camera. The ones I'm waving to over here are not on camera, so you can always just raise your hand, and we, meaning the all we here in the room, will help each other to pass the microphone to one another as our questions pop up. And for those who are online, and I see somebody has their hand raised here as well too, you can hit the raise your hand icon if you're located on Zoom. And for all of those folks who are joining us all over the globe on Facebook Live, please feel free to drop a comment or question inside of the chat, and I can bring that into the room as well. So I always like to mention that I keep the chats anonymous. That way we can continue to have a safe container for spiritual growth. So I see Ross, we have you here in the room. You want to go ahead and just say your name and ask a question?
Comment, yes.
I had all these wonderful pet beliefs, as you've heard me say when I started this. But what we're talking about today is enormously powerful. And what it does is it gives me an opportunity to truly be responsible and to make changes in terms of the beliefs that I have to set that machine in motion. And how I'm celebrating this is all those pet beliefs, I can't remember what they were.
I love that. That's great. That is great. And it is exactly the thing that begins to give us the blessing and the curse of taking responsibility, right? That's the blessing and the curse. Did you have your hand up? Okay, why don't we pass that back there? Oh, let's see. We had a comment online and then we'll come to you.
Yeah, all right. So Marjorie, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and join us?
Good morning, Marjorie.
Good morning. Yeah, this has been one of the challenging aspects of science of mind, that when I first was learning all of this, I sort of took exception because they were talking about the impersonalness, and I thought, well, wait a minute now, I don't want something that's impersonal. You know, I want to have a personal relationship, and I'm coming out of the Christian faith, and so it took me a long time to kind of get it. But I think one of the things that helped was they used the word messenger, not as in the Christian understanding of Jesus as messenger, or of the Prophet Muhammad and Islam as a messenger, but this impersonal, like a messenger, as in like a courier, a carrier of whatever was put in. You're going to get exactly that back. And that really helped me a lot. And so taking that, and then also the understanding of the ancient teachings of as above, so below. So what goes up must come down, as within, so without, and also as upside down, inside out.
Yes.
And so it really kind of, you take it full course, and it begins to make sense.
Yes.
So that whatever this thing is, that is this law, is going to impersonally give me back exactly what I put in.
Yes.
And then also does that for the collective as well.
Yes. Yes. Which we should never forget. That's exactly right, Marjorie.
So it's like there's no one to blame. It's like you can't blame the messenger.
Right. Beautiful. That's great, Marjorie. I love that idea of a courier. Taking the idea, the impress, the thought, and then just simply currying it over into form. And yes, and for many people, particularly coming from the Western traditions, not so much in the East, because we don't have a personal relationship with the deity so much in the Eastern traditions. In the Western traditions, it's really challenging because it can feel very cold and very impersonal. And yet on the other side of doing the work that Marjorie was just talking about and really finding a way to get a hold of that, on the other side, my experience is a deeper, more profound love than so far beyond than Jesus loves me, this I know, right? So far beyond. I mean, the love is so great. Everything has been given. Not only has everything been given, but Spirit has become me and loves me so deeply and loves who I am so deeply that it wants nothing but the best for me. The trajectory of life is always for life. And so the experience of that and the experience of oneness and belonging in that is so rich and powerful. But as Marjorie explained, we have to go through this portion of it. And if we miss this portion of it, this is the other way that I think of it as sloppy metaphysics, we can change the names of things, but actually still hold in our mind an image and a set of beliefs that are from what we knew before. And we don't actually begin to really shift our relationship with the nature of reality and then take the responsibility that is required, which is probably the most painful part. Thanks, Marjorie. All right, we're going to go here into the room.
Yeah, Gerald. And
Gerald?
I guess when this was first introduced to me a long time ago, somebody said that this entity does not know when you're BSing.
Right.
And so when you throw something out there, and I think you touched on it back here a week or so, a couple of weeks ago in meditation, about the subconscious mind. And when you just said that, oh yeah, I'm going in that direction, but I'm still allowing the subconscious to operate in the background with ideas and foggy stuff and old stories. Mm-hmm. And so when we're putting stuff out there, if it's not wholesome or not whole, it becomes, like you say, it's sloppy. It's just kind of hit or miss.
And this, yes, thank you, Gerald. And it is important because it's not a one-to-one relationship. It's the whole nest of belief systems and ideas. And this is why sometimes we want to just affirm something and then we're like, well, how come it didn't happen? Oh, Spirit didn't want me to have it. No. That affirmation was in a nest of a whole series of ideas and beliefs, a framework about the universe, all of those kinds of things. And it's the sum total of that becomes the impetus. And this is why we study. This is why we work to change our image and understanding of the nature of reality. This is why we shift who we understand ourselves to be. And we work and we work and we work and we work at it until that's what's running in the background. And this is why also we do spiritual mind treatment day after day after day after day after day, because we're rewriting the synaptic pathways. That's why we do affirmations over and over and over and over and over and over again. Again, we're rewriting those patterns so they stop interfering. They stop interfering with that direction, the new direction that we want to give it. Beautiful. Thanks, Gerald. All right, what else? What else? Oh, we have one more in the room here. Should we check with you, Ryan? Should we stay here in the room?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Oh, you were just holding it. Okay, great. Oh, we have one in the back, all the way in the back. Thanks, Denise.
We get to participate in volunteerism.
That's right. Thanks, Denise.
Oh, and that's a good plug because we do have our volunteer fair coming up later on this month. I better see all of you there.
That's right. That's right. We need you.
All right, JL.
Hi, this is JL. So I am going to try to articulate this the best way possible. In Christianity, we talk about God being as a parent, right? Which makes it very personal, right?
Yes.
And that we're all God's children. When you think in context of being solely responsible, I sort of think of my own children, right? And as your children get older, they still can go to you for guidance and still can go to you for advice, per se. If spirit is so impersonal, per se, if spirit is supposedly impersonal, then who do you get that source of guidance from?
Well, first of all, it's not spirit we're talking about. We're talking about the law, the soul. We're not talking about spirit, right? So it is the soul that is impersonal. It is that aspect of the infinite that is the creative process that can only take what you give it and outpicture it. That's the part that's impersonal. The aspect of the one that is life itself, that is the animating source of all, is so personal, it has become you. That's how personal it is. And so when we say spirit, right, that's a part of what we're doing when we do our visioning, when we open in meditation for inspiration. And so the impress of spirit is always going to be for life, because that's its trajectory. That's what it means. That's what love means. Everything is given. It's always moving for your greater good, right? And that's its doesn't matter. I was going to pull it. Doesn't matter. It's a philosophical term. It doesn't matter. That's the directionality that it's going in, right? And that's what we mean when we say alignment. What we're doing is seeking to align ourselves with the impress of that love, which wants you to be happy, joyous, free, fulfilled, centered, feeling at peace with yourself, right? And so when we open to guidance, it's not a who, it's not a what, it's the very infinite presence itself, right? And so from a Christian point of view, it can be really challenging to let go of the who. Who's out there? Well, you are. In your universality, you are. In that infinite is both the universality that we experience, right, and the individuality that we are. And so, yeah, think about it. Your children do come to you for guidance, right? But are they not responsible for their own lives?
I understand this. Sometimes this is that backstory
Right.
stuff that keeps coming up.
Right.
And it's like, okay, and I think the problem is when I say spirit, I am not separating the impulse, the laws
Right.
from spirit.
Correct. That's exactly right. Thank you very much, JL. And that's what I mean by slightly sloppy metaphysics, right? So there's a fabulous passage in Thomas Trower's Edinburgh Lectures, and it's in the chapter with the mouthful title, The Reciprocal Actions of the Universal and Individual Minds. I can't believe I even remember it. The reciprocal actions of the universal and the individual minds. And Troward has such a way of explaining it without any religious or baggage from other spiritual traditions, religious traditions. And he says something like, I'm going to paraphrase it, he says something like this: when we are desirous of co-creating, expressing something, we become the personalizing force, the personalizing place. We personalize the input, and the universe is the impersonal creator of that. When we seek guidance and revelation, we become the impersonal open space, and we draw the personal nature of that impress to us. And so this is the constant dialectic that's going on. And the problem with things like parent is, one, it's separate. Two, it's authoritative, right? And it means that we don't ever really ultimately have to be fully responsible for our own lives. Because there's always a parent there that will take care of us or punish us. And when we can let go of the idea that spirit is a who, then we can also let go of the idea of reward and punishment. Because the law is simply outpicturing. It's not, there's no reward, there's no punishment. It's just an outpicturing. And if we don't like it, we get to say, oops, that wasn't exactly what I intended. That didn't come out the way I'd hoped. That wasn't, so I have to explore many different things. Was my idea faulty? Do I have other beliefs that are wrapped around it, that are hooked into it, that I have to examine, unearth, clear out? Or was my end result that I wanted actually influenced by society, family, friends, what I thought I should want? Or maybe it's just, no, I really thought that was going to be it, and now I'm realizing, oh wait, that's not quite it. And so the ability to let go of the who, you know, I refer back to Meister Eckhart's beautiful statement. He says, I pray to God to rid me of God, that I may find God. Marcus Borg calls it we have to let go of our naive acceptance, move through the critical examination until we have a conscious acceptance of what we understand reality to be. And that's a process. And think about JL. I love thinking about your kids, right? Somewhere between, Jason and I just had this conversation. So funny. That's so funny. He said, yeah, between 16 and 28, he said, I realize now that I just knew everything. Right? And they may come to us for advice, doesn't mean they're actually going to listen or do anything about it. And the whole project is to distance, to become themselves. That is the project of a teenager and a young adult. And now at 32, 33, we're having these amazing conversations about parenting and what kind of a home are you creating? And he's like, oh, I see that you did that. Oh, I didn't even know you could intend those things. Wow. Like it's a whole nother place. Because he had to go through pushing all of that away so that now he can take it up, but he can take it up in his own way, right? And this is the same thing when we release the old idea, an old idea of a who, we can embrace this really amazing experience that we are living on the continuum of the universal and the individual. I love what Emerson says. He says, there's no bar or window where the individual leaves off and the universal starts. Right? And so we think of it as a continuum, which is why it's so critical that we don't just focus on manifestation. We have to also focus on the mysticism of science of mind, the experience of oneness, the sitting in meditation, the walking in the woods, the being engaged with sacred scripture that fill our soul and allow us to praise this amazing thing that's happening, right? All of that gives us that warmth and color back in a whole new way. But that's the that's the mysticism, right? And so Ernest Holmes reminds us over and over and over and over and over and over again, love and law, presence and principle. These two things are simultaneously 100% co-eternal, co-arising, co-happening all of the time. And it's just a question of, are we using the law to manifest in the particular moment, or are we open to the direct impress? And it's basically a little bit like a switch. You know what I mean, right? Do we have it on receive or output? Input or output? Input or output? I know it's simplistic way of thinking about it. But that's what we're doing. And ultimately, I mean, when you think about somebody like Jesus and different people who have really mastered this, right, I think of it as this beautiful dance. Like there's a point where you can no longer tell who's leading. Is it spirit leading? Is it me leading? Is it the law leading? Is it me leading? And it's this beautiful dance of directive, receptive, so that we're receiving the impress of life, and then we're choosing, and then we're receiving the feedback, and we're choosing again, and we're receiving the impress, and we're choosing. Do you see? And it becomes this magnificent dance where we are experiencing ourselves as both the individual and the universal. Of course, we can't encompass the universal. That would be impossible as long as we are limited to these finite, receiving, like tuning instrument, right? If we're a receiver, there's only so much that we can of that whole. But we can sure allow ourselves to really touch into that universality and discover there's no place where all of a sudden our individuality stops and universality starts. They're simultaneously always here. All right, comment. So right here.
This is happening whether
We need a microphone.
This is happening whether we're aware of it or not all the time, right? These are descriptions. They're not proscriptions. There's not something you have to do to make this so. This is just a description. That'd be like, and your heart pumps this many times, and this valve works this way, and that valve works that way, and blah, 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 right? It's just a description.
I'm Willie, and I just had this thought, and it may be true and it may not be true, that we're all of us here are somebody's intention. Somebody intended us. Mm-hmm. And that brought all the parts of God right here into this one place.
Yes. And one might ask the question, do we think it's your parents that intended you, or do you think it's you that intended you?
Ooh. I think probably it was me that intended me.
Right? As the universe starts individualizing that individual aspect within the universal, there's no, in science of mind, we are not Buddhist. We do not believe that at some point there is a return to the oneness where the individuality ceases to exist, because the individuality has added to the infinite. And if that individuality ceased to exist, now the infinite would be -1. And that's impossible because it's infinite, right? And so this is where we understand that the individualizing is part of the way the infinite is expressing its infinite nature infinitely. I know, right? You guys got to go. Okay, and so again, don't try to analyze it or look at it too hard. Like, just look at it out of the corner of your eye. Take it into your meditation. Just let it sit there. Like, wow, just let it sit there.
We are our first creation.
Yes, I think that's true. In any given realm, I think
And
there's
if we can do this, we can do anything.
We're here to become more.
We're here to become more. That's right. And we're literally adding to the infinite. Right? It's its absolute nature and the intangible reality of spirit and soul, but embodied reality is forever expanding. Okay, we have a comment back there. We're just kind of keep just.
And this is a comment, and it's really a plug for classes.
Yes.
So, I've been studying this for over 10 years, and the first time I did an actual spiritual mind treatment for myself, it was so awkward, and all the duality, all the old Christian beliefs came into play. But when you describe, Dr. Peter, the flow of back and forth and like a dance, as I've learned to do spiritual mind treatments, and I'm in that process of just bringing in the one, that spirit is pure love. Mm-hmm. And claiming that I am that, it's such joyous a feeling. I can feel that infinite. And then I go into the directed part where I'm claiming for myself into the law and trusting that that will be the creation. And so then I go back into gratitude. It's such a wonderful, joyous thing to do.
Beautiful.
So if you want to learn how to do that,
Yeah,
take classes.
Take classes. It's so true, Denise. And I love what you say. I do think that a spiritual mind treatment, one of the reasons why it's such a powerful spiritual technology and our most important spiritual technology is because it really does marry all of it into one thing, right? And yes, I mean, anytime you learn something new, it's weird and awkward, and you can't tell me how to pray. I have my own relationship with the divine. Well, okay, but I'm going to tell you how to teach you how to skate, and I'm going to teach you how to cook, and there's lots of things we learn how to do. As adults, we forget how to learn. And there's something really powerful about this because it's exactly right? It brings the universal and the individual and the individualized expression absolutely into alignment in a way that is so deliberate and so amazing. And my experience now, I have prayer partners that I've been working with now for years. And there are times after our treatment, when we've done our spiritual mind treatment for each other, it literally feels like we're both levitating. Because it's such a full and rich experience of the fullness of the whole thing, including that impressive love. And the love that we have then to speak our word for someone else, because with our prayer partners, we speak our word for each other. And it's an extraordinary thing. But you have to practice, and you have to practice, and you have to practice, and you have to keep working with it, and keep working with it, and keep exploring in the process of spiritual mind treatment. Am I saying a truth? Is this a truth that I'm saying? And it has truly been the single spiritual technology that has shifted everything. So I'm going to put a plug in for my own e-course. I have a fabulous e-course called Manifestation and Mysticism. It's on our website. If you go to education and you go to the little e-course button at the top of the education page, Manifestation and Mysticism is an entire e-course on really diving deeply into spiritual mind treatment. And so I invite you to that. We do have a class that we run on a regular basis. The Power of Your Word is coming later this year. And there's also a class called The Art and Science of Spiritual Mind Treatment. And we dive into it because it's such a rich experience. And it deepens us spiritually. It's not just to manifest things. I mean, I have been more deepened spiritually by a consistent spiritual mind treatment practice than by anything else. Because it forces me over and over and over and over again to ask, is this true? Do I know it's true? Do I think it's true? Do I really? What do I mean by those words? Am I accepting them as true? Am I embodying them as true, right? Over and over and over again, let alone doing it for some outpicturing of either a thing or an experience or just more peace or those kinds of things. So so thanks for saying that, Denise. Very, very powerful. Okay, so we're going to be moving on next week. Can you believe it? We're going to be moving on next week to the outpicturing, body, effect, form, right? Because that's the third part of the three aspects of the one. And it's truly, 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 truly my favorite thing about the science of mind. So we'll talk about that starting next week. Anything else we want to say other than Easter's coming up? We have a fabulous Easter celebration. What else? Anything else?
Yeah, and I also wanted to remind folks that we have a democracy and advocacy training coming up. So we had a really good attendance for our one that happened this last Friday.
Our consciousness raising.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
so it's going to be a good opportunity to learn about your local politics, how processes are made, but it's also really taking the spiritual mind process to the next level and applying it here to our democracy. So I just encourage people to visit the website. I put a link in there as well, too, for those who are wanting to come up. And then one last plug, again, for the volunteer fair that we'll be having here in person and on campus, happening later this month. It's the third Sunday of the month. I don't know what day that is.
Whatever the third Sunday is, right?
It is, yes. So it's just an opportunity for those to come and join us. This is a volunteer organization, so it's ran by you guys. The programs are influenced by you guys, so we really look forward to encouraging you to be a part of our community that way.
Yes, and so let me put a plug. If you were at the consciousness raising event that we did on Friday night, the democracy and for our political election cycle this year, you did realize that we are in desperate need of tech support, because I, in my wisdom, thought I could do it all. That did not work out so well. So we can also use tech support for events outside of Sundays and classes, for special events like that. Somebody to basically do what Ryan does and help us out.
Say it ain't so, Petra. Say it ain't so.
So lots and lots and lots of things that we can use your help on. And so I'm going to say it out loud. I don't have my sling for my arm because I think I left it somewhere. I went to the Irish festival yesterday and I left it, I think, in the car of my friend. So I don't have a sling, but I still can't hug. So I'm going to hand hug everybody. I have my surgery on Wednesday. Please hold me and know that it's perfect, easy, effortless, and quick and speedy recovery. So I'm going to have to say the same thing in the celebrations so that people don't feel like I do want to hug you. This not hugging thing is for the birds. Let me just tell you. My God. All right, so we'll see you in the celebration. We'll see you soon wherever we see you again. Bye for now.